Alright, this film kicks off way back in the Qing dynasty, dropping us right into a high-stakes rescue mission. Leading the charge is our main guy Su Kan. He's apparently a seriously respected and skilled general, are storming this fortress. Why? To save a kidnapped prince who's been snatched by enemy soldiers. Su is not messing around, he's got exceptional martial arts skills and seems pretty sharp strategically. After what sounds like a really spectacular and intense battle, Su successfully gets the prince back safe and sound. As a reward, the emperor offers him a major political position. Sounds pretty good, right? But Su actually turns it down. Instead of climbing the political ladder, he decides to retire from the military life completely. His dream? To open a martial arts school and just live a peaceful life with his wife Ying. Yeah, confused me for a second too. And their young son. Aw, nice peaceful start. Naturally, this peaceful beginning doesn't last long. Things take a really dark turn for Su, especially when his adopted brother Yuan Lai reappears after being gone for years. And when he finally shows up, oh man, he's completely changed, and not in a good way. It's not just his looks, his whole personality is twisted and sinister now. And he has this seriously messed up vibe about him. And he's done something horrifying to himself. He's actually grafted black armor directly into his own flesh. It's a brutal and twisted way of using this 5 Venom Fist martial arts style. This gives him some seriously brutal, almost inhuman powers. It's genuinely creepy to see, and it feels symbolic too. Yuan doesn't hold back. He immediately accuses Su's own father of murdering his father. That hits Su completely out of nowhere. Su's father did kill Yuan's father years ago. From Su's father's perspective, he believed it was the right thing to do, for some greater good. But to Yuan it was just straight up betrayal and murder. This is the deep, dark root of his hate. As Yuan really starts unleashing his dark martial arts, this 5 Venom Fist stuff, and shows off his horribly altered body with that armor embedded in his skin, Su finally gets it. This isn't just a tense conversation, this is absolutely not a brotherly reunion. This is something terrible. Su tries to fight back against Yuan, but during the battle, Yuan manages to poison him. This leaves Su broken physically and mentally during the fight. But things get even worse. Yuan suddenly grabs Su's father, and without any hesitation at all, he just kills him, right in front of Su. It happens fast. It's brutal. Su is left lying there, turns his cold gaze towards Su's young son. Without any hesitation, Yuan seizes the boy from his mother's desperate grasp. Then, cold as ice, he just hurled Su off the edge of the cliff. Time seemed to slow down as Su fell. The sky above him blurred into this mournful gray color, and the world went silent. Finally, his broken body washed ashore, half dead and shivering in the silence. The respected general, Su Kan, was gone. What the river left behind was just an empty shell, a ghost of a man, waiting for something to bring him back to life, waiting to be reborn into something else. He drifted in and out of fever, the poison still fighting against the tiny bit of life left in him. Time lost all meaning in that darkness. Reality started to fray at the edges. He didn't feel any peace. All he saw was his failure. He saw his son being taken, his father murdered right in front of him, his entire legacy and dream shattered. And in that moment, lying there broken, something ignited. Without anyone having to tell him to, Su somehow pulled himself upright, driven by this raw guilt that was eating him alive and a helpless rage that had nowhere to go. He started to train. It wasn't training with a clear purpose or proper form at first, it was training born purely out of desperation. Every single move was clumsy, agonizingly painful, but fueled by this desperate need to somehow reclaim some piece of the strength he had lost. He punched the stone walls until his knuckles were bleeding raw. He wasn't moving like a general anymore. He was moving like a ghost of his former self. Reality started to split and unravel around him. It began subtly at first, hearing echoes of laughter, seeing movements just in the corner of his vision. They didn't appear with any kind of dramatic ceremony. They just sort of were there. Su, bless his broken heart, started following the beggar's movements. These weren't elegant stances, they made zero sense, just lurching, twisting, falling over, and occasionally flailing a limb. The beggar, naturally, found this absolutely hilarious. He'd cackle like a hyena, mock Su relentlessly. The pain was definitely still there, a constant reminder that this wasn't exactly a spiritual retreat. But yeah, the will to somehow do something also remained. Something new started cooking inside him. It wasn't discipline anymore, that died with his old life. It was raw instinct. Not rigid structure, but finding some kind of rhythm in the chaos. His movements started getting wild, completely unpredictable, almost unnervingly alive. The foundation of what they'd eventually call the Drunken Master style was beginning to, against all logic, actually rise. Who knew falling over a lot was a core technique? Somehow in the middle of all that insanity, Su actually started moving with this genuinely fluid unpredictability. His attacks weren't coming from ingrained discipline anymore, they were just happening. So, Su's wife Ying was still there, watching this whole spectacle from just outside the cave entrance, and she, bless her heart, didn't see the beggar or the god. Nope. To her, Su was just talking to literal shadows, occasionally bursting into laughter at absolutely nothing, falling all over the place, punching and kicking thin air, and, perhaps most concerningly, just slamming back drinks from a jug that she knew was empty. From her perspective, the man she loved had descended into what looked suspiciously like total, unadulterated insanity. But here's the thing, she didn't abandon him. She didn't try to stop him from his apparent madness. She just waited. She cooked his food. She gently tended to the endless stream of wounds he inflicted on himself. Her unwavering belief amidst his chaos is honestly kind of amazing. The hallucinations, far from fading, apparently just decided to go hardcore. They got worse. And then, just like that, one day, the hallucinations simply vanished. Poof, gone. No dramatic farewell speech from the beggar, no graduation ceremony or certificate of completion. The cave was just empty. And stepping out of that cave, the harsh reality of the outside world was still waiting. Yuan Li was still out there, ruling with poison and fear. Su's son was still missing. Meanwhile, the empire under Yuan Li's tight, venomous grip was doing great. If by great, you mean rotting faster than last week's takeout. His black gold forces were everywhere, spread out like a really nasty rash, enforcing Yuan's rule with all the subtlety of a brick-to-the-face fear and good old-fashioned corruption, and the general population. They mostly whispered about General Sukan like he was some dusty history lesson, firmly believing he'd gone to join his ancestors via cliff and river delivery service ages ago. But then, the ghost decided to return. He walked straight through the main gates in broad daylight, probably looking like he'd just rolled out of a particularly rowdy tavern, completely drunk on his own rhythm, apparently, and proceeded to just dismantle an entire platoon of Yuan's elite forces right there in front of a terrified and probably utterly bewildered crowd. Soldiers were just falling left and right, like dominoes hit by a particularly wobbly wrecking ball. They simply could not predict his movements, his staggering sways that somehow dodged every attack, his unpredictable angles that strikes came from, his brutal precision that was somehow masked in all that chaotic flopping around. Yuan, by this point, was pretty much completely consumed by the venomous power he'd forced into himself. The battle finally exploded into motion. It was venom versus wine, pure, unpredictable chaos versus toxic, rigid power. Yuan fought with raw, brutal, direct force. His strikes were heavy and deadly, his fists still charged with that same poison that nearly killed Su back on the cliff. And brilliantly using his opponent's own monstrous strength and momentum against him, it turned the whole brutal confrontation into this weird, dangerous dance. And Yuan, for all his power and fury, just couldn't keep up with the rhythm. Su, standing there, bloodied and trembling from the fight, was victorious. His wife, Ying, passed away, a truly heartbreaking loss after everything they'd been through. Following Ying's death, Su's world shattered once more, but in a different way. He didn't become a vengeful warrior, he just broke. He became a wandering beggar, mentally unwell, lost in his grief and trauma. And in a sad reversal of roles, his young son, who is called Feng in this part of the story, ended up caring for him. It's a really difficult image, seeing them live in such poverty and despair, the child caring for the broken parent. One day, Su, still living as this mad beggar led by his young son, finds himself at this brutal foreign-run arena. It's the kind of place where fights aren't about skill, but just raw, violent spectacle. Turns out, his old friend Ma is scheduled to fight there. Su, still partly lost in his madness and drinking heavily, just watches numbly as Ma is savagely beaten by this huge wrestler. It's a tough scene to witness. Then young Feng, seeing his father's friend in terrible trouble, tries to step in, tries to stop the beating. But the massive brute in the ring just grabs the boy, hoisting him into the air. That moment, his son's helpless cry as he's held aloft in danger again, something just snaps inside Su. The numbness, the madness, it all clears away in an instant. With a sudden fire in his eyes, Su leaps into the ring. He's there to protect Feng, pure instinct taking over. He's immediately surrounded by multiple powerful fighters. Many of them are foreigners, all trained, brutal, and completely merciless. The crowd, seeing this beggar-looking man stumble into the arena, just jeers at him. They have no idea who he is. He's knocked down hard, slammed into the ground, punched repeatedly, just ragdolled around the brutal arena. The enemies surrounding him are larger, more powerful, and relentless in their attacks. He takes multiple full-force strikes directly to the chest. By the time the fight is finally over, his face is bloodied and completely battered, and he's barely even conscious. He just collapses. He falls heavily beside his son Feng, breathing in ragged, heavy gasps. His body is broken from the sheer beating he took. But his spirit somehow is alive. That brutal beating in the arena, it was his final, terrible trial. That Su Kan is not just a warrior who won fights, or a madman who talked to ghosts. He's a legend. A true, enduring legend defined by his pain and his resilience. Now, if this recap left you feeling enlightened, entertained, hit the likey button. It's the digital equivalent of not getting thrown off a cliff. Which part made your brain fracture first? Was it the living armor? The child prodigy with a handgun from the other story. The tied-up soldiers. So many choices, and subscribe to the channel, because who knows what other bizarre, pain-forged legends or just plain confusing movie plots we'll unpack next! Seriously, click the buttons. It's definitely less effort than fighting an entire platoon while looking drunk. Just saying.